Okay, forgive me. I'm a minute late. I was trying, but making mushroom coffee took a little bit longer than regular coffee, so I'm a little bit behind. But I'm here, hanging out. How is everybody's weekend getting started? If you're still working, almost weekend, and if you're like me, then this is the first day or might be the second day. Anyway, happy Friday. Poe and I think, recovering. That was so much sugar yesterday when we went to bake, so we're both recovering. Bria and Uwe are still judging us for our desserts, so. Anyway, I was thinking recently about evolution, and not the scientific kind, but I have a playlist. I go to the gym. You guys obviously know that. I go quite a bit. And I either listen to audiobooks, which I do like, but I'm not somebody who can, I don't know, I guess get speed when I'm going without having that motivation, that push from the music. The tempo of the music is very, very important for me when I'm trying to go a little faster, trying to push a little harder. If, when I get to that point when I'm doing all of like holding planks or doing mountain climbers, jumping jacks, anything cardio related, if I'm doing the machines and I'm tired, just having that up tempo music is very, very helpful to me. It's the same thing when I do yoga or Pilates and I need to be sort of more zen, more like calm and in the moment. I take all the lyrics out, I calm the music down quite a bit. And when I first started with my my playlist, I hate running. And the initial playlist was created back when I was actually going to try to run and train for that half marathon that I did. Excuse me. It was a lot of very angry music, like, how dare you make me do this? And I mean, a lot of the music is actually like breakup music, but I feel like that's the most angry music, is like, how could you do this to me? I was taking it more as, how could you make me agree to do running, which I couldn't stand. And it was designed by a friend of mine, not the playlist, the challenge. But as time has gone on, I have changed a lot of the music that's on that particular playlist. I went from Godsmack, the song Voodoo, which I do love. I love the song. It doesn't really work as much anymore. And I'm trying to think of other songs that are on there. I can't even think of any. Oh, Shinedown, Monsters, Popular Monster, or Popular Monster by Falling in Reverse. I think one of those is still on there. But then I started adding like kind of more fun songs. They were still angry, heavier songs like Rob Zombie's Dragula. But as a former dancer, that actually makes me want to move. It makes me want to dance because I like the beat. And then I realized I started adding songs from Queen, like I Want to Break Free and Don't Stop Me Now. They're almost more motivational. They're fun and they're dancey and they're upbeat. And I'm not saying that I suddenly like running. I don't at all. And I still am just walking when I go to the track. But yesterday, when I was on the track walking, I did 8 miles in 2 hours, and I felt good after the fact. It wasn't, it's not runner's high. I've never had a runner's high, but it was just accomplishment. I felt good. I felt like I pushed myself and I did something positive. And so I noticed that. And then the most recently added song, and if you've seen the movie, you understand how catchy it is. I love the Shakira song Zoo from Zootopia 2. Yes, it's a little kid song. I don't care. I love it. It's fun and it's upbeat and it just keeps me going, and I can't help it. I'll be on the track, I'll be walking, and that song hums on and I just smile and I go a little faster. Even it could be 7.5 miles into the 8 miles. I'm tired and I'm ready to be done. But there's something about that song. When it comes on, I want to go faster. I want to dance. I want to have a good time. And it got me thinking about the playlists on some of my books, because I have either a series playlist or like individual book playlists. It just depends. I have both for my Voices series. I have the initial playlist that I created for the first book, and it's very, very effective. It's actually the first one I ever made for a book. And when I put it on, I'm right there in the story. I connect with the characters. It's a very effective playlist for me. When I moved to the second book, I was using the same playlist, and it was mildly effective. But there were things that felt like they were missing, and there were things that felt like they didn't need to be there. So I made that second playlist based on the first one, and I deleted, I think, 3 or 4 songs, and I added a couple more in that felt more like it was attuned to the characters in that book. Same thing with book 3. It's almost the same as book 2. It's a similar group of characters and a very similar storyline, although set in a different place, and I guess a little bit more amped up for the third one. And so the playlist on that one, again, it's almost exactly the same, but it has a couple songs that are very specific to the main character in that book. The last book has an entirely different playlist. Yes, it's still the same series. Yes, it's still an evolution of that progression from the characters, but it's set somewhere different. It's a completely different main character that honestly we actually don't even see and meet until that book. The characters from the previous 3 do show up. They are in that book in some way or another, but this is an entirely different story, and so it really did need a whole different playlist. And the whole idea of evolution, of progression through time, through the stories, especially in the series, has been on my mind a lot recently, because when you do a standalone, when you create a book, Partners in Crime is one, Your Book is another, when you create that playlist, especially when it just fits and it clicks and everything is working, it doesn't tend to change. It doesn't move much, but it's only one book. It's only one thing. It's, a moment in time, I guess, in the literary world. When you go into the series, when I created the playlist for Origin of Sin, I was thinking, okay, this is going to be the playlist for the entire series. I did the same thing with the Voices books. This is going to be it. This is the one that I'm going to listen to all the way through. But as you get to know those characters, as you develop that relationship with the characters, their rapport, you get to understand them better. You see their motivations, their individuality. Sometimes you actually have to encompass that. And if you are like me, if you use music for that, it really does need to progress with the story, with the characters. I mentioned that I'm going to be releasing playlists with the books. The Sin series, I haven't released the playlist yet, even though I am at book 4 and book 5 is coming out soon. But the reason is because it actually is the exact same playlist. This one, instead of creating an entirely new playlist or deleting songs and adding songs, with each book, I have all the songs on the playlist already. But then there are certain songs that do feel a little bit more Lavanna or Asmara or Marin, the different characters. So what I have them is I just have them muted right now. And then as I'm working on that next book, I unmute the songs and add back into the rest of the playlist those ones that work with the main character for that book. So in this one, I think I want to wait until all of the songs are active and the whole series is done. So when book 7 comes out next summer, I will release the playlist too. For those that know me, for those that know what a little pop princess I am, when I say pop princess, I don't mean like I'm a Swiftie. I do listen to some Taylor Swift music, but I also listen to Godsmack and Rob Zombie, so yeah. I like a little bit of everything, but I like the more dancey, poppy kind of music. I always have. And even though I have the dark hair and the darker clothing, I guess I'm a little bit more Britney Spears than Avril Lavigne. Always have been. So the playlist, I think, for your book is going to make people laugh. Partially because it's more on the punk rock side. Also because it is the most 90s thing I've ever put together. Now, considering my age, I don't think that that is inappropriate. I think it actually makes sense because even though the book is set modern day, it's set in high school. And I needed to be in that frame of mind. So I went back and I listened to songs that were popular when I was in high school. Yes, it is going to date me a lot. Like, it is really going to tell you when I was in high school. And I don't care. That's fine. I'm 43. Why would I care? But I had to laugh when I was making it because everybody's looking at me going, high schoolers don't listen to music like this. I said, I know. But they did when I was there. So if I want to write something and be in that mindset, I have to go back to when I was in that mindset. And Poe, there are days I just sit there and just close my eyes and listen to the music, and I'll just hold him because he's my little worry bird. And I play with him all the time. But we will talk about the music, not Poe and I, me and my friends will talk about the music. And I've asked some of my friends that are a little bit younger, still not current high school age, but, you know, that are a little bit more in tune with current music, be like, if you were in high school now, you know, what would you listen to? What would you be doing? The hardest thing for me is pagers were the height of technology when I was in high school. But the book isn't set then. It's set now. So smartphones, and I'm asking teacher friends, you know, like, what is the cell phone policy at your school? What do you do? How do you punish kids if they play with their phones? All of that kind of stuff, because I want to make sure that it's accurate to today, but we didn't have this technology back then. So we have different kinds of cars than we had back then. I almost just want to see if I can get a pass to go wander around high school, especially with it being summer, and just sort of get a feel for like what the lockers look like. I always go and help a friend down in California do a class on statistics. She's a math and statistics teacher. And I wander around their campus, and it is a vastly different type of school and a different type of campus and a different setup than when I was there in school. I went to school in Michigan. We had a completely institutionalized, fully enclosed campus. You know, we had like a courtyard out front that people would go to during lunch. We did have an open campus, which I don't even know if they still do. But that's, you know, when we had lunch, we could actually leave the building and come back. I honestly don't know if they do that anymore. And again, that goes back to safety things, and a lot has changed in far too many years. But when I went to help in California, they have lockers outside. They eat outside. They have this whole huge open campus. And it's entirely different just from state to state, let alone the time change. Again, evolution. Keeps coming back to that, the change as time goes on. So whether it's the music on a playlist or the style of school or what technology, of course, is always evolving, there's always things that are changing. And in order to, I guess, make sure that I'm being as accurate as possible with my characters, to make sure that I'm sharing things correctly, it almost takes research just to understand how far we've come in the time frame that I'm working on. Thankfully, and almost impossibly, when I work on the Sin books, they're set back in 1692. They're set during the time of the Salem witch trials. Technology is lacking. So I can't say that the sisters are going to grab their phone and send someone a text. Obviously, there's letters, and then I have to take into consideration the time frame of mail, especially back then, being delivered between places. So being cognizant of not necessarily lack of technology, but current day technology back then is important. And it's almost become a challenge to incorporate modern technology now, just because I'm so used to not using the technology. I have another standalone that'll be coming. It's set in Chattanooga, so I'm excited. I'm going back to Chattanooga. I did a signing there last year. Wow, time just blends after a while. But I did a signing there at the Reed House Hotel. It has a haunted room, which I didn't personally experience anything haunted in that room, but I still like the story. It definitely inspired the idea. And originally I wanted to go back and write a more historical piece. I do have a thing for history. And I wanted to write kind of the story of the victim that is the haunting there. And then I thought it would be more fun to write one that's more modern day that incorporates her story. However, the ultimate way that came about is researchers like myself, however, they are like YouTubers, is actually inspired by another friend of mine who does like spooky stories. AJ Downey, if you're familiar with her work, she's amazing. But she and her research on the spooky and the paranormal kind of got me into the idea of doing like a YouTuber team that goes out and researches and stays in haunted rooms and things like that. So I had this idea, well, I'm not the most well versed in that world. That's almost technology that's ahead of my abilities, not ahead of the time. I mean, there's YouTubers all over the place, but I want to learn more about it. I need to learn more about the technology, about streaming software and editing and lighting. And I mean, you guys can actually see in the monitor behind me the reflection of the light that's pointed at me right now that makes me look somewhat half human. Staging is a huge thing. So I'm going to have to go back, obviously, to get more more research done on the actual room, on the story of the city, on the story of the haunting. But I also need to do a bunch of research just on like YouTubers and influencers and current technology. I'm working with other people that do podcasts like this that have like the full streaming platforms and are, doing like the multiple collaboration things, people that interview other people on there. So I need to learn a lot. I get to actually sit down and research and work with people who make all this kind of stuff so that I can make that book as accurate as possible. And so I don't have people that run their own YouTube channels looking at me going, that isn't even going to work. I obviously want to be as accurate as I can. So as I learn about more technology, as I learn about more of the evolution of what is out there and what's available, again, we come back to growth and to things changing. So believe it or not, this actually started out to just be about music, but there's so much that's always changing and so much that we're always learning, and I enjoy that. I think it's fun to kind of see how things alter and to embrace it, to go, okay, here's my playlist. This is the one this is it. This is what's going to work for this book or this series. And it's never true. It never stays the same. The standalone books, I guess sometimes, but I do. Usually halfway through the book, I'll find that one character that's like the dark horse character. And there's something about him or her that plays some sort of weird twist. Maybe they're a red herring, maybe they're, which I know is an old term, but a patsy, it's an even older term. Maybe they're the one that changes the story. Maybe they're the one that leads and misdirects the story. Maybe they're the one that figures out the misdirection, but they play some sort of important role, and I don't have them represented on the playlist. But when I need to really connect with them to get into that particular part of the story, I end up adding a song or two that either relates to what they're doing or who they are. So even the standalones, a lot of times they do alter. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how things evolve. And then with my co-write with Akela Rose with the Reverse Harem and the Poe trilogy, and Poe's very excited about that. Although I don't think my poor little innocent bird here knows exactly what's involved with that one yet. The playlist in that will be ever changing because, especially with the Poe, it goes back to the Sharing Strength collection that I wrote years ago. There is the last book, and then there's the 4 before it. You can read the previous books in kind of any order. They're collection versus series. They're not linear. Because a lot of times when I do that, those books are all happening simultaneously, and it's just a different main character. And then what happens is, what happens in those 4 books leads into the final book. And so the only one you have to read in a particular order is the last book last. In the Sharing Strength collection, actually, you can read that one exclusively because it does touch on the backgrounds of the characters that are in the story. If you want a more in-depth look, then you get the rest of the collection. With the Poe series, you will actually have to read them all in order to really understand what's happening, but you don't have any particular order you have to read them in. So I'm going to be working on those, but each one will have, each girl in the group is going to have her own playlist. So those playlists will actually be released, even though it's a series, those will be released as the books come out. And yes, they are modern day with a Edgar Allan Poe twist. I'm actually currently working on collecting all the information for that. And I'm going to go to Baltimore, visit Poe's grave. I've already been to the Seven Gables house. I'm going to go hit up the East Coast and do some research. And of course, Poe will be with me. So there's adventures to come. I'm very excited. And again, evolution. I'm sure things will be constantly changing, constantly altering as we're going. But I always think that it's interesting to see how things change. And I love hearing about how things change. So especially for my author friends, if you see this, let me know, how do things evolve with you? How do things change? Especially if you're an outliner, a plotter, we call it in the writing world. If you sit down and you plot everything out and you create everything and you know the whole story before you start writing, how does it change? How does it evolve with you? I'm curious. As a pantser, I don't really experience that too much because for me, as I'm writing, as I'm going, I'm learning the story as I go. So I don't have anything predetermined really, other than whatever initially sparked the idea of the book. But for readers, for those that are readers, do you enjoy that evolution? Like what is it that you like or dislike? Because obviously character arcs, as you go through the story, the whole point is that they evolve, they change, they never stay exactly the same. The only person that really does usually is like a bad guy. Because they're always set in their ways, and that's kind of usually their downfall. But what is it that you like or dislike about watching that change within the characters? And for those of you in not necessarily the running world, but the fitness world, do you do the same thing? I'm curious when it comes to music or to your motivational whatever. You know, do you use different motivational quotes? Do you change things? I'm always curious how people do things, if you change things too, if you evolve. So, hit me up. Let me know. How do you how do you change? How do you evolve? How do you alter things for your world? Whether it's the writing world, the reading world, fitness, day-to-day work, whatever it is you do, whatever your hobbies are. Also, do you pay attention to the progression for whatever your hobbies are? Are you working on getting faster, on getting better, and getting whatever it is you do? What is it? What are your goals, and how do you evolve and improve upon that? I find that interesting. I would love to hear. So anyway, my brain has stopped evolving for the day. I need more coffee. And I have a million things to do, including more fitness stuff, so I'm going to get at it. And I definitely have some writing stuff to do, so I'll be working on that as well, including updating a couple of playlists. For those that are curious, I know I've been having some more hard-hitting and intense music recently, from Whatever It Takes with the Imagine Dragons, and I had Shinedown Monsters on there for a while. I'm just going to warn you, we're a little kid this week. We're going to be full-on Zoo from Zootopia. That song's been stuck in my head forever, and I'm going to go put it on and dance while I get going on the rest of my day. So I'm going to go get more caffeinated. I hope for the rest of you, you have a great weekend and a wonderful week, and I will see you next week. Until then, I hope you also get to stay caffeinated.